right, so we've heard a lot of the background information on this crash. That crash was the culmination of a very bad period of time for the naval aviators. Well, actually, Air Force, Army, and Navy all lost within 6 months of a number of people. There are training accidents that don't get much news, but this one was bad. You'll remember it was called an atmospheric river, which delivered the worst storm in San Diego history ever. It was characterized as a 1,000-year storm by someone, and 3 months before, I guess it was, yes, 3 months before, there were 5 Army soldiers killed in the Med during an aerial refueling training exercise. And just in the November before this event, which was in February, 8 Air Force were lost in an Osprey that was operating out of Yakushima Island. They crashed on the way back to Okinawa. Anyway, these 5 men who we're honoring today were all members of the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing of the Marine Heavy Helicopter Squadron 361, nicknamed the Flying Tigers. And that's all I have. I will just read their names, and then we're going to have different people come up and give us a little bit of detail. Lance Corporal Donovan Davis was 21. He's from Olathe, Kansas. Sergeant Alec Langan, 23. He was a crew chief from Chandler, Arizona. Captain Benjamin Moulton, 27, a pilot from Emmett, Idaho. Captain Jack Casey, 26, a pilot from Dover, New Hampshire. And Captain Miguel Nava, 28, a pilot from Traverse City, Michigan. He was the oldest one at 28. And now I've asked our friends to come up and read a little bit about each of these fallen gentlemen.
Lance Corporal Donovan Davis enlisted in the Marine Corps in September 2019. Promoted to Lance Corporal in January.
Microphone to your mouth. Microphone up. There you go.
Okay. Lance Corporal Donovan Davis enlisted in the Marine Corps in September 2019. Was promoted to Lance Corporal in January of 2024. His decorations include the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, and the Sea Service Deployment Ribbon. Young kid.
Alex Langen enlisted in September 2017 and was promoted to sergeant in October 2022. His decorations include the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal and the Good Conduct Medal, the Globe War on Terrorist Service Medal, and 2 Sea Service Deployment Ribbons.
Benjamin Moulton was commissioned in the Marine Corps in March 2019 and was promoted to captain in August 2023. His decorations include the National Defense Service Medal.
Miguel Nava was commissioned in the Marine Corps in May 2017 and was promoted to captain in November 2021. His decorations include the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, and a Sea Service Ribbon.
Jack Casey was commissioned in the Marine Corps in May 2019. Was promoted to captain in September 23. His decorations include the National Defense Service Medal.
Thank you.
$50,000 saved for retirement right now in 2023. Did you know that you can legally become your own bank? Yes, you heard that right. You know what that means? No more stress about banks failing.
We could all just rise, please.
Well, okay, so we're going to go from this memorial service, which is sad, to something much happier. Our guest speaker is Liz Dickenson, and she's from American.
We're going to do David Reed. David Reed.
Oh, you want to do David Reed first?
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be at the end.
No, we're going to do it now because it folds into this.
That seems right.
Some of you may remember David Reed. He and I worked with Concerned Veterans for America about 10 years ago, and he still continued on working for CVA after I left. And he and I, back in 2014, brought up Hampton Roads. We got a lot of volunteers here in this area. He was really great at what he did. Sadly, he passed away this past Monday, about somewhere between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. And he had had problems for the last year and a half. And CVA put out on their Facebook page, I believe on their website as well, a memorial to him, and I'd just like to read it. We at Concerned Veterans for America are mourning the loss of a dear friend and dedicated patriot, David Reed. David served his country with honor in the United States Navy, a point of pride for him. His service to his country continued out of uniform, and he was a tireless advocate for his fellow veterans. He dedicated his later life to grassroots work, building communities, lobbying on Capitol Hill, and ensuring the veterans have a voice. We remember him for his work he did at CVA, but more so for the friend he was to all those around him. While he referred to himself as a grumpy Navy vet, we all knew him to be warm, honest, compassionate, and kind. David was the kind of friend you wanted to have, and we're all better for knowing him. As we join David's family and friends in grieving his loss, we hold on to wonderful memories of a kind, caring man that would do anything for someone in need. We'll continue to work for a better life for veterans in David's memory and honor.
Thank you. So now we can move on to something more cheerful, which is. Oh.
Yes. The next Monday, I'm going to put it out when I get the details. You have an HDMI.
Yes,
Should just come right up. There you go.
All right, good.
Perfect.
I'm just want this way.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Good. Liz Dickenson is the executive director of American Majority. Did you start that?
No, Ned Ryan did. So I'm the executive director of American Majority Virginia.
Virginia.
All Virginia.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's right. I remember. And she's come 4 hours drive to join us this morning, which we always appreciate people who come from out of town. It takes a lot of dedication. Speaking of dedication, she has 7 children, one of whom came with her. And I'm always impressed with women who can do everything. Is that right? Is that right, daughter? She does everything. And are you going to sit there, or are you going to come up here?
Oh, I'll come up there.
Okay, please. And she's going to talk to us about ballots, building a ballots in and ballots out machine.
Let's hear it for Liz Dickenson. Welcome.
Hello, good morning, thank you. Yes, so as Bill said, I'm Liz Dickenson. I've met many of you before, but not all of you. We are from Loudoun County up in Northern Virginia. Don't boo us. I'm doing what I can up there. We're an hour west of DC. I have 7 children, as you said. My daughter Katerina is here helping me. I have 3 at home, and I have 4 down here at Regent University. So, yay, I feel like I should have, thank you, a building named after me. So my oldest is graduating the law school there. I don't see Laura here, but I know she graduated from Regent also. My next daughter's graduating from undergrad and staying down there for her master's, and then I have 2 freshmen. So, and then 3 at home. Our youngest is 6, and so we homeschool, so we'll be doing that for a long time. I've done it since my oldest was 3, and then he turned out fine, much to my mother-in-law's amazement. So she was very concerned. So it all worked out. We adopted a girl dog last year to even out the teams, and now we have 4 and 4. So it's all good. My background is intelligence. For most those of you who don't know me, I was a former Russia biological chemical weapons analyst for CIA before I got out and wanted to spend more time with kids and less traveling and try to get more involved in actual politics and things that I think actually make more of a tangible difference here in Virginia. We've been in Virginia since '99, and I love Virginia, so I'm very thankful that we have 3 Republicans at the top, and we will see what we can do. I go around, and so American Majority is a 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan conservative nonprofit. Ned Ryan is our CEO. Has anyone seen Ned on Tucker or Laura Ingraham or anything? He does the talk show circuit. But he started us several years ago. We are in 5 different states. I think actually 6. We just added Arizona and recently North Carolina. So North Carolina, all of these are going to be very big with in 2024. Obviously, don't tell you guys it's a big presidential year this year. So we have a sister organization, American Majority Action. So this one I go around and I train activists, people running for office, students. I just trained over at Regent University on Thursday night, so a big group of students, which is exciting. I like to teach the young people. And our sister organization is American Majority Action, and that's the one where we oversee that as well for Virginia. We have teams of people who do door knocking, phone calling, peer-to-peer texting. I come up with targets in the spring of which races we're going to do, and then we go all in. And since 2019, I've been hiring teams down here as well. We did Bill, I don't see Bill, but we did Bill DeSteff's race. We did Karen Greenhall. We did Kevin Adams down here. Across the way, we did Danny Diggs, and we did some overlapping House districts as well. So we had 19 races we were doing last year, and we have 2 Virginia staff, so it was very busy. So, but very exciting because we have to do what we can, while we are doing it. So I'm doing my best with one hand, so I will try to click and hold at the same time. Okay, so we saw a need for this. This is our newest training. I've been here before talking about messaging and talking about running for office. This is for everyone, and we're trying to give this to as many groups as I can this year before the elections, and I'll talk a little bit about why. So this is what we call building a ballots out ballots in machine. Okay. So we're basically going to talk a little bit about how things had changed the past few election cycles. Some things that we had done previously well, we kind of stopped doing, and we're going to talk about some of the things we've abandoned and what the left is doing at the same time. People in general, I'm finding as I'm going around doing this, don't seem to like the idea of doing kind of tactics that the left uses, but we'll talk about why it's okay if it's legal. So what is the left doing right now? And so left and right, so we're a nonpartisan, I'm not with GOP, so I try to stay left and right as much as possible, but you know what I mean. So what is the left doing? Okay, these are the new things they've been doing the past several years, and for Virginia, this is all newer because it hadn't been legal. So they are not necessarily focusing on persuading people to vote their way anymore. And I don't know, has anyone here knocked doors in the past few years? Right. I don't know if you guys noticed here, but my teams have noticed up in Northern Virginia, Fredericksburg area down here, the absence of the other side out knocking doors, which has been, right, very strange. And it started back probably a few years ago. It wasn't just last year when we noticed it, because usually we see them because they follow us around and they steal our flyers off of doors. That's how we know that they're there. And then we wait till they leave and we put them back. We would not see them anywhere. And we started kind of being puzzled. This is probably 2020 it started. And so what we realized is they're not necessarily trying to persuade voters to vote for their candidate so much as focusing on the mid to low propensity votes. Does everyone know what that means? So a low propensity voter would be someone who does not vote very often. So they might vote only presidential, but never an off year or local elections, that type of thing. And there are, ratings like we'll talk about 1, 2, 3, 4s. And that's really when we're just using walk apps, right? When we're filtering that. But what that means is they tend to vote out of 1 out of every 4 elections, or 2 out of every 4. So those are your low propensity. You guys are not that. You guys would be 3s or 4s. You vote in everything. You know when all the primaries are. You show up. Your neighbors come to you at the last minute saying, "Who do I vote for?" Because you're in the know. Okay, you guys are what they call the hard R's, or hard Republicans, because you're doing it. So what they're doing now is really hitting the mid ones, the ones that don't really show up to vote, to make sure that they are sending in their liberal ballots. They've perfected ballot harvesting, which had been illegal in Virginia until just a few years ago. It was always a very California thing that we always mocked, but it's now legal. They've embraced no fault and universal absentee voting. No fault means you don't have to have an excuse to do it. Like in Virginia, you used to have to say that you were traveling, or you're going to be out of town, or you're sick or something. Now you don't have to do that either. You just don't. You can just vote. And universal absentee balloting, we have in several states. We have an office in Nevada, and that's one where they do it. They just mail you a ballot whether you've asked for one or not. Sometimes more than one. My coworker got 2. And neither were processed. She was doing the track your ballot, and it was never processed. And they focus on voter registration and universal mail-in ballot, which you just talked about. But voter registration is a big one that we need to not overlook as well. So 2022, just 2 years ago, that was kind of a failure on our side in many ways. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. I haven't had a lot of sleep, but okay. 2022, it was a failure for us, but we're going to talk about why, because what did the left do? They didn't bother with the usual persuasion techniques. Like I said, they weren't showing up. We weren't getting the same amount of mailers. Because my kids are college, so they vote mostly, they're not usually home for the primary. They vote, the general. So they haven't quite figured out what party they're in. So for me, that's good, because I get all the flyers sent to my house. So I have an idea what the messaging is on the left, on the right, who's doing a good job. And also with it's interesting to me because I know that they have no idea how my kids vote because they're not home for the primaries. They didn't show up to debate. Do you guys remember the Pennsylvania races they just had? Fetterman wouldn't debate. Josh Shapiro wouldn't debate. And they were asked over and over. Katie Hobbs out in Arizona, right? And anything that they did show up for was very last minute, like right before the election. So you didn't have time to respond to anything. What they were focused on was not meeting to convince voters of what their views were and what their policies were going to be. Instead what they were doing is they were chasing all the circulating ballots in their states. Okay. Arizona, we saw this a lot, and there's a slide on Arizona we're going to talk about as a case study, because that's one that we were really all in on. They rigged the 2020 election. Does anyone here think that they did not rig the 2020 election? Because you might be in the wrong place. I'm just checking. Okay. Right. CTCL, you guys know what CTCL is? It's the Center for Tech and Civic Life. That was a private organization that Zuckerberg and others funneled money through illegally into many, many races, including Northern Virginia and down here. And now so that's where the Zuck Bucks, you've heard that that's been made illegal in Virginia. We'll see if they don't find some sort of loophole, I don't know. But those are all issues. In 2022 was a failure of us outside of Florida to implement these types of methods to actually win. So why do they keep winning? Is anyone ever frustrated when you knock doors, and then you go to your big victory party all excited thinking you're going to win, and then nope, right? And you're like, why do we keep losing? Okay? So this is why we wrote this training, because we were also frustrated, and we had to step back and say, what are we doing? Something's not working. We need to reconfigure our way of thinking. The last strategy has become what we call ballot out, ballot in. Basically, mail it out, get it back. Mail it out. So generation, we call it ballot generation when you're encouraging people to request their absentee ballot. Ballot chase is when you're chasing that ballot until they have returned it. That is different from ballot harvesting. Ballot harvesting is when you're collecting ballots for other voters that are voted and then returning it to either to the registrar or to the ballot box. So just make sure you guys know what the terms are. They realize they have enough votes to win if they can increase that low propensity voter return rate. So what have they done? They created a machine that gets the low propensity voters to request the absentee ballot, and then they basically, gently harass them. That's really what an absentee ballot chase is. Did anyone have the Youngkin team, the Secure Your Vote people, come to your door this year? No? So I usually vote early in person because I work polls on election day. And so they know that. So it was interesting to me that their data was good. So we had a guy come and he said, I noticed you haven't voted yet. When are you going to vote? I thought, interesting. I said, well, I'm voting when my kids are home from school. But I waited till end of the week because I wanted to see if they'd come back, and noticing I hadn't voted, and they did. They came back a second time. I said, okay, I'm going to go. So it was good to know that they didn't cross me off just because I said I was going to vote. So don't cross your people off until they've actually voted. And then I voted, and then they didn't come back. So their data was good. So you need to get updated data on that. But that's how you harass people. You're just basically showing up all the time. Hey, have you returned your ballot? Conservatives tend to still be out there trying to persuade voters. I was asked at the last time I gave this one whether that means that we're not doing any kind of messaging whatsoever. No. Your base still wants to know, look at our primaries, for example. We have a lot of people on our primaries for the Senate. So your base is going to be comparing the different candidates, and they want to know where you are in the issues, and all the things that I've told you before for running for office still stand, and so does messaging. That is still important. But you cannot just depend on that anymore. It is not just that. For your low propensity voters that aren't paying attention to anything in politics and aren't going to show up on, we just had all of our local elections this past year, right? We had all of our board of supervisors and our school board, all the very important ones that actually affect us on a day-to-day basis. But your low propensity people don't show up to vote for that at all. They just don't, I guess, maybe understand how important it is to them. But those are the ones that we mean that you have to chase after. So what we're doing is playing this game with our two hands behind our back, because they are ahead, so they're doing two things at once, and we're still kind of living in the past. So we're going to have to move up. Politics is a game of addition, not subtraction, and that goes across, everything, really. Oh, there's Laura. Hi, Laura. If you don't get all your ballots in, you lose your race. If you lose your race, you don't get to make changes. So, all right, who here thinks that our current election laws in Virginia are great? Right? You guys like the 45 days of voting, you like mailing it in, no questions asked, no, signature, et cetera, et cetera. Nobody does, right? And this is what I was trying to impress upon people last year who were opposed to this with, for the Senate races and the House of Delegates. Until we hold the House of Delegates and the Senate, there's no way to get rid of all of the bad legislation. You don't get to make legislation if you don't win your race and become a legislator, right? So this seems easy to me, but I know it's very new because Virginia is not traditionally, a mail-in state. But we can't get anything accomplished if we don't have control of anything. And I think we're going to see that, starting right now. So where can we look for guidance? We can look to Florida. We have a new Florida person here, right? So Florida is our success story. Florida is the brightest success story in the country, and we're using it as a model. They used every lever at their disposal, and they banked their votes for the 3 3s and 4 4s. Those are your hard R's. They got them to vote either in person early or in person on election day, and they went after the conservative low propensity voters and got them to mail. So with this, it's not either or, it's both and. You have to get all of them or you're not going to win. Instead of following the Florida model, we still have been chasing votes instead of ballots, and understand the difference, right? Yes, every ballot is a vote, but it's a different mentality. Because when you think vote, you think go to the polls. That's what I think, right? Because I'm traditional, conservative. But so also chasing the ballots. We've been focusing very much on election day. Does anyone here vote early at all? Yay, okay, good. Hopefully you'll consider voting early if you don't already. But we have tended to keep focusing on election day. Because do you guys remember back in the day when high turnout on election day was a bad thing? And we'd be like, I hope that it's bad weather because the left won't come out and vote, right? And it was true. We would come out and vote and they would not. But now because they have so much early absentee, we really need a heavy turnout on election day on our side. So now it's really hard to gauge because so many people have already voted on the left. You have no idea going into election day how things are going. People ask me, how do you think it's going? I have no idea. They've had 44 days to vote before that. I have no idea. And top it off, we've been severely underperforming with light voter registration and waiting to do our GOTV, which is the get out the vote activities, until the 2 weeks before election day. Many people have already voted by that time. And then I thought we weren't supposed to vote early. Well, we have to play by the game by the rules that are set, right? We didn't make these rules. We don't like the rules, most of them. I know I don't like the rules. We might question the rules, but again, we cannot change the rules until we hold the positions of power, until we can legislate. And that would be, city council, mayor, all these different things. It's the same. School board, until you are in a position to make the policies there, they will not be changed, or they'll be changed in a way that you don't want them to be changed. Again, if you are running for office, your goal should be what? To win. If you're not in it to win it, get out. Please. You have to win in order to change things, and I think we all want a lot of this to be changed. Current rules, make sure you know what the current rules are, because what's important with this is that you are following Virginia law. Do not do anything that is going to violate our law. Every state has its own ballot collection laws. Okay, Virginia's you can find Virginia Department of Election. They update that frequently. Does anyone here use vpap.org? I like vpap. And you can see like the the old and new lines for districts. You can see not ballots, but votes. You can see early votes. It's nice for tracking and also for planning for the next election. And then the Virginia Legislative Database. Anyone like that? Yeah. I know my wonky people. There they are. Like who likes LIS on a Friday night? Me too. I do. But you can see the sponsors of bills. You can see co-sponsors of bills. Whether it was tabled or killed, whether it went to the governor for signature, and to really do. I've done this a lot with the election integrity bills to see where they are, and then to see which people to pressure for voting. 25 states and D.C. allow ballot harvesting, and 46 allow some sort of early voting. Current rules in Virginia: early voting opens 45 days prior to election day. That's for early in-person, and the mail-in ballots go out the same day. So if you requested an absentee ballot, say in May, it's not going to go out until 45 days before the election. So they all go out in the order they were requested. So that's your early voting. And I think we all said that we don't like that, right? No. Also, that's a lot of time. You need to have people at the polls for early voting. That's a lot of time to have that staffed. And you better believe that the other side has them staffed. So anyone can apply for an absentee ballot for any reason. No reasons are necessary. Ballot harvesting is legal so long as you've chosen the person to return it for you. They can take it and return it to the registrar's office or to one of those ballot boxes. Who loves the ballot boxes? No, we need to get rid of those also. Anyone requesting a mail-in absentee ballot is added to the permanent absentee list unless you check the little box opting yourself out. For your low propensity voters, if you know that they are conservative, you actually want them to stay opted in, because then they're going to get it until it's not legal anymore, because then you know that you have that conservative vote going forward, because the people that aren't going to vote more than once every 4 years are also not going to look into, requesting it the next time, and they want to do minimum stuff that's involved with voting. I know that hurts. All the activists people are like, oh, that kills. I know, but again, always keep in mind the average voter that everyone has, your neighbor who's not, they want to vote but they're not really following things, that kind of thing. So it's not the activists that we're talking about with that. Okay, and again, follow the laws. We are not lawbreakers. Don't become lawbreakers. And honestly, the laws are so egregious, you don't have to break them anyway. They're so ridiculous. So anyway, they feel illegal, but they're not. So back to the Florida model. Okay, it was time for the right to focus more on the holistic approach. That's, again, what I was saying, the both and, not either or. So you're getting the low propensity and the high propensity GOP. So why were conservatives able to win overwhelming majority of statewide races since year 2000, and I'm going to show the slide in a minute, when the majority of registered voters were actually on the left? A robust, well-funded absentee ballot chase program. Okay. And I made sure we went back far enough before, because the first thing was, because I was thinking, maybe it was because of COVID. We had a lot of conservatives move to Florida because of ridiculous COVID rules everywhere in blue states that moved. So first I thought, maybe that's why they were winning. But we went back pre that, and we can see it was well before COVID. So since 2010, Republicans have won 21 out of 24 statewide elections. And we can look here, and that's really impressive, because look at the voter registration. So you register by party there. Look at 2018, they had 257,000 more Democrats, but they won the statewide for everyone. As you can see, now we have had people move in. We've had people I know you guys know Scott Pressler down here. I know he did some stuff down there with voter registration. A lot of that. But now look at the difference. In 2023, we have 680,000 more Republican voters registered in Florida than Democrats. So voter registration is a huge issue. But also, again, the importance of, they were doing this absentee ballot chase down there in 2010. And again, look at how many more Democrats they had registered. And the Democrats still lost all the statewide races. So again, absentee ballot. This is how much they spent. They spent $10 million over a 6-week program to bank this about 1.1 to 1.3 million absentee votes. That's just absentee. That's not the in-person people that are going to come on election day. Okay? So you need all three. Again, both and. You need absentee, early voting, and election day. We are always still going to have, I know when we were doing our phone calls indoors, you have the one guy who's always going to say, I voted on election day since, 1810, and I'm never going to stop. And you're not going to change his mind. Say, thank you, sir, please remember to vote. But, for the rest of the people, try. And you need to register voters you can do all year. You don't need to wait till a certain time of the year. So that should be happening all the time. My churches are a great place to do that. We have a larger church up in Loudoun County, and our pastor lets us do voter registration. We don't register by party in Virginia, so it's nonpartisan, but we have a table where they can go online. We have iPads out, and they can register to vote right there. It's just easy. They go right onto the website. Same with requesting absentee ballots. We did that this year too. They could come and just put in right in Department of Election and request their absentee ballot to be sent. Anyone in Virginia could do it. You didn't have to live in that district. I did have a guy try to vote there. He said, can I vote here? I said, that is a felony. You cannot vote here. We don't even have ballots. But you can do things like that at churches. You can do, gun shows, any place. And also with voter registration was interesting, because I hadn't thought this way before, was to assume that I just tend to, if people are involved and are coming to meetings, that they're registered to vote. That is not always the case. Particularly some people have moved from outer state and they haven't really, updated. Always assume, this is what the left does, they always assume everyone they meet is not registered to vote. So, like Scott Presser will always say, hi, my name is Scott. Are you registered to vote at your current address? It's just like his intro to everything. And the number of people are like, well, no, because I just moved from whatever. And he'll be like, whips it out. It's like, here, you can fill this out right here, So, almost like an evangelist for voting. Okay? So what does this look like? A robust absentee chase program. And I'm going to talk in a few minutes a little bit about what we did last year because that was our first kind of dipping our toe into it to try to figure it out. Okay, so again, voter registration, you need to grow your base. So that's your conservative voters, right? Getting more of the low propensity voters to request the absentee ballots because they're not going to vote otherwise. And that's lapsed voters too. If they just have not voted in a long time, get them back into it. Just it's very easy for them to vote. If it's just coming to their house every time there's an election and they just, just check it out and they can mail it, they can even mail it back in if they want to. And chase the ballots the moment they drop. Drop is when they're mailed out. Okay, so as soon as you know that they're mailed out, they will normally get it, a few days later. So do heavy GOTB the moment that early voting starts and again for election day. And we even last year started saying, like, we saw that you requested an absentee ballot and you should be getting it, in a day or two. So please remember to vote. Of course, some of them are like, that's kind of creepy. How do you know that we did it? Like, oh, well, we just do. So, well, you can get, the voter list. We had through our voter gravity system, we'd pay for the updated from the registrar every day to get an email with updates. It's about a day or two in arrears, but it still would drop off people. So you're not still bothering people who've already voted. Again, voter registration in your state. How do you do it? Well, it depends on how much money you have. That would be whether you're out hiring a bunch of outside firms or you have a robust grassroots organization that can do it for little to no money, which is obviously good. Rough costs, like again, organic versus paid, peer-to-peer texting programs are very good. That is what we do. I don't know if you know the difference between peer-to-peer, but peer-to-peer is so you can get robo-text, right? And you can't respond, although you can say stop to opt out. When we text people, we don't do that. We do live text. So we do have a few canned responses, but we can also respond because we get some pretty interesting responses back because they think it's robo. And I'll be like, did you kiss your mom with that mouth? And they'll be like, oh, I didn't know you were a person. I'm very sorry. So we do the live back and forth. Also, if you do that because of that type of thing, I do recommend that you text using a man's name, not a woman's name. We've now switched to always being men because of said comments coming back sometimes. So you need to be a little bit careful. Okay, again, gun shows, churches, etc. Giant on a Saturday morning or Costco, whatever the happening place, you can do it anywhere. It's legal because again, it's not party registration. So. Yeah, we have 5 states that allow to be on the permanent absentee list, and we are one of them.
So,
yes.
You would recommend that we try to just get people registered. We should have these registration documents. We could get them from the registrar's office, right?
Well, Scott does that. So that's a really good question. So if you actually want to register other people, so what we do is. We'll have like a table, set up an event usually. If you're going to, and even like if you're out like at the Costco or something, you usually have a little table set up. If you want to register other voters in the Commonwealth, you have to take the online class through the Department of Elections. It's not very long, but you basically have to be certified to do it. You can't just be, so they know that you're, not just getting them to think that they're registered, and then throwing them away. So yeah, so we always have one person who's done it at the table, kind of overseeing it. They're the point person, and then they're filling it out. But the people that aren't, so like I didn't do the class this year. I did it a few years ago. So I wouldn't be the one to take it over to the registrar because we want to be very careful. So the person who's registered would gather all those, if they were doing the hard copies and would take them over. So good question.
We can sign up for that class?
Yeah. Yep, online. Yep, right online. You do it right online, and it's not very long. I don't think it was very long. Dinah, you probably do that.
Yeah,
right?
we did it.
Yeah.
We just had a registration drive at the last gun show.
How did that go?
Well, the first day we got people registered to vote. The second day, not so much.
See,
I think it was because it was Super Bowl Sunday.
See, I personally haven't had a lot of luck at gun shows, and I'm not sure why, but this is something we're kind of trying to look at. I don't know. I've had many gun owners frustratingly tell me they're not registered to vote, they don't want to be registered to vote because they want to be under the radar. It's like, well, do you have a driver's license? Like, yes, you're on the radar. And what I've been telling them is, if you're afraid that the government's going to pigeonhole you as a Republican voter, don't vote in primaries. just vote only in the general election, because then they have no idea, like how I say my kids vote in all the generals and they get from both parties because they haven't been kind of figured out yet as being Republican voters. So if they're that afraid, just say, okay, well, at least vote in the general. They'll have no idea how you voted. Some of them will still think that they know how they voted, but they don't know how you voted. The primary is how, like, when we're trying to target conservative voters, that's how I do my filtering. It's basically kind of, and it's even, since we're not party registered, it's inferred Republican voter, and that's based on primaries. And I never do it on one primary because people flip, just get involved in the other party sometimes. So, yeah, good question. Yeah.
Can I ask you one more?
Yes.
Thanks. I've gone door to door for Jen Kiggins and John Moss, and there are people who answer the door, and they say that they're sick of having to vote every month, every 2 months, right? There's
every 2 months.
Yeah, whatever it is. There's too many solicitations for different races here in Virginia.
But are they actually voting every 2 months?
Well,
that's concerning if they're voting every 2 months.
Well, you look, we have one here in March.
Oh, because it's special elections
and
and then
primary, and then you got another one in June, and then there's a regular one.
just, I don't know, just say, well, you can tell, they can do absentee. It's just easy. You can fill it out and mail it. Or just say, well, are you going to the store that week? Just do it on the way to the store. It's very easy.
See, I never thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, just maybe do that. So I don't know. I know. See, I have a hard problem with the people that it's like, it's just so hard to go and I'm like, well, you're out all the time. But anyway, that's just my own thing. But yeah, I just was like, well, where do you shop? Well, your polling place is right over there. Just stop by. They're open all day. So yeah, and they can early vote too. And they just say, well, you have 45 days. Are you leaving the house in the next 45 days? Well, because you get the 45 days for the primary too. I mean, people are already voting for presidential.
Would you actually say that, do they?
Well, it depends, but always smile. And it depends. And it depends, like, if you know them or if they're like, you can tell from their demeanor how you're going to respond. If they're kind of like, if you can smile enough to make them kind of a little less hostile, it might, you can kind of joke around a little, and they'll be, and they'll maybe more likely to do it because they think, you're kind of personable and it's a little bit funny rather than you don't want it being confrontational where they're like, well, I'm not going to vote now. That guy was a jerk, right? You don't want to do that either. So, yeah. You smile up. It'll be fine. Okay, so time to get to work because we don't want to keep losing. Identify absentee ballot request deadlines in our state. Identify presidential election-only voters. Those are your 1 out of 4. And for this year, I put that up there because this is a presidential year. So those people that only vote once every 4 years, this is their year. So you have to get them to vote. Identify the other ones, the 1, 2, 3s, and then push them to get on that ballot list so they can be getting their absentee ballot in. And use peer-to-peer texting, that's the live texting. Use social media ads, live phone calls. Again, we don't do robocalls either because, whatever, they're a little annoying. They're okay from candidates if you're getting it, but from us, like we call and we'll call the first part and we'll do a survey. Which of these issues are the most important to you? And then when we come back later, because we're not a PAC, so we have to do an issue-based for percentage of the time, and then we can actually directly advocate for our candidates. And then we'll come back and say, like we did Bill, and say, what can we count on you to vote for, Bill and Karen coming up, So then we have an idea again that they're an inferred Republican voter, and how are you voting? Did you vote already? Do you want an absentee ballot? And then because we had the address to give them, when we were texting them, they would send them the link so that they could click for absentee balloting as well. Because our filter when we were doing this was for the low propensities at first. Like we thought that they're probably conservative, but are going to be ones that want to vote absentee. And for moving up, I always say, you guys know what like a fish ladder is? You just have to get the fish to go up one. Like if try to get voters who don't vote at all or rarely vote to vote absentee. It's just one little step, absentee. They're just mailing it in. If you vote on election day, one little step would be early in person, right? So my goal is not to get anyone who votes in person at the polls to stop doing it and mail it in. The mail-in is really for the people who aren't going to really vote otherwise. Now, if you want to mail it in, you can, but I don't know why you would switch. So again, don't assume that people are registered. Also, don't assume that they know what all the rules for all of this are either, because this is it's still fairly new in Virginia. Don't assume your supporters understand the value of voting early for your campaign. What candidates are in the room? Candidates, okay. So you guys like your candidates, right? So I always say you like your candidate. You want to help your candidate in a very easy way? Vote early, because then they can cross you off. They're not spending money and resources chasing your vote. They already know they have it. They can spend their time and resources on other people who have not yet voted. So help them in that way. Let people know they can track the status of their ballots, because people are afraid to mail it in now, and we use Ballot Scout in Virginia, and you can, here's a picture, what it is, and they can track their own ballot and see where it is, whether it's received, processed, etc. If you've not signed in at the end, just a reminder, please sign in and make sure I have your email, because I'm going to email all of these slides to you so that you don't have to try to take a bunch of notes while you're having breakfast. Okay, so now how? You take your identified voter list and you're going to combine it with your current voter file. Again, this is not something that one person's just going to go do. You need like a group of people to do this. Hey, look, a group of people. Encourage them to vote early and provide them an application for absentee voting and follow up with them. This is the chase repeatedly until it's confirmed that they have voted. Again, this is not them saying, I'm going to go tomorrow, until they have voted and you know it coming back, they have not voted, because something could happen. Okay? Once it's confirmed, then you're going to remove them from your list, and you're not going to follow up and bother them anymore. Okay? And encourage them to help stay involved in the campaign in some way. Like if they seem like they're really, we're doing stuff for John, which is, if they seem like they're really into him, they're really excited, and the whole thing with, you like him, right? You want to save him money, and they seem really enthusiastic. Say, great, do you want to help out in some way with the campaign? That's a good way to get volunteers as well. Okay. Voter outreach. Chase the ballots when they drop, already said that. Again, Virginia, they go out 45 days prior. Start hitting the people with all of those things I mentioned already, and they can track the return rates. And you can track the return rates in real time from the registrar list that you're going to be getting, and that's how you should be deleting them out of your database then. Pursue all the way until mail-in voting deadline, and this is important. Your goal should be at least 80% return. So that's of the people who actually requested an absentee ballot, you need to be chasing to try to get 80% returned. Florida's goal has been 90%, and you can see how well they are doing. So this is an example of Virginia. Again, these are our dates for this year, November 5th. I'm sure you all know. Okay, we already are voting. Does anyone already vote in the primary for president? Yeah? Good. Okay. Don't forget to vote. Okay. So phase 1, there are 2 phases. Field work on issues. We usually begin in June with American Majority Action. We'll do voter registration in summer and early fall. But again, you can do it all year. Deadline is 22 days before Election Day for this particular one, and your absentee ballot request push, again, there's your deadline there. It's 12 days before Election Day. Remember that you can show up at the polls and register to vote now, but if you show up on Election Day, you'll have to vote a provisional ballot. So, phase 2, GOTV begins the 45 days beforehand I was talking about. And it's September 20th this year. Absentee ballots are mailed out that day, and again, you have to give them a couple days to actually hit because they have to be mailed out. And you'll start hitting people then with all of the methods that I already described: doors, texts, phones. Saturday before Election Day is the last day to vote in person. Make sure you have those polls staffed that day. We had the longest lines the Saturday before Election Day, which I just thought, you got 44 other days to vote. It's so strange, but this is human nature. We have to go, it's last minute, there are very long lines, and all the candidates were there working it. So as candidates, if you're going to be working the polls during the early voting, the Saturday ones are very important to be at. Okay. Now this is what we did this year. It's kind of our experiment we were trying to figure out. And you guys had built a stuff down here. He was doing his own. I met with him down here just to kind of see what he was doing. After one of my trainings last year. He did a lot of this very successfully, the absentee ballot chase. And we were doing similar, but he's a really good resource for you guys if you have questions about how to do it or how he did it, ways that worked. I know he did it down here. So again, we are not a traditionally mail-in ballot state, which I'm happy about, but we really had to sell this idea to conservative groups. I was telling Robert yesterday that I went and did this training. My first time I did this training was in Southwest Virginia, and not even a very, very small town. We had like 50 people there, and the GOP chairwoman stood up after and said, "No offense, dear, but y'all are doing the devil's work." I said, "Oh, no offense taken, no problem." I said, "What?" And she said, "Well, you're using Democrat methods, to win elections, and I won't do that. We need to only vote." She stood up. We only need to be voting on election day, and all this kind of stuff. And I said, "Well, first of all, there were no elections in the Bible. It was kings and judges, so that's not even, an argument. Second of all, we're not asking anyone to skirt the law at all. This is how the left wanted the law written. This is how the law is written. We are following the law, so we're not even law breaking." So again, I go back to, I know you don't like it, but it is what it is. We can't change it. But someone told her to sit down, so at least it wasn't group wide. But I thought, but she was a leader. She wasn't like sometimes you get the fringe person in your group, and you're just like, "Oh, okay, yes, thank you, sir." But she was a leader. So it was a little bit. Really have to sell this idea to groups, because it's, some groups I think get it very quickly, like the importance of using these methods, and others just are like, we're going to just keep doing the same thing over and over and over, but we're losing. So that's not good. So what did we do? We did generation and chase last year. We did this in all 19 races. Down here we did a lot of doors, as well as up in Loudoun where I am, we did a lot of doors and phones and texting. These are the 7 Senate districts that we targeted, and 12 House of Delegate races that overlapped for ease of, doing kind of bang for your buck, two for one. We did 12, 17, 20. We can see them up there, which ones that we did. We won 5 of the 7, I believe. And we did door-to-door, all the things I was just talking about. And we encourage them to request their absentee ballot for the low propensities, and we're encouraging our hard R's to go early in person so we could check them off. Our goal was 80% absentee ballot return. We got 80% in 6 of the races, and we got just under, it was like 79.43 something, and that was actually Kevin Adams' race, and that he didn't win that one, but so we got just under 80%, but we could see what our percentages were, updating. Here's a little bit like what our chart looked like. Challenges we faced here, again, the conservative base was a bit opposed to it in the very beginning, so that was, those are our people, so we're trying to get them to understand it. Redistricted lines were an issue. So redistricting last year, and I want to read this to you because this was one of the special masters who was in charge of redistricting for Virginia. So to understand what we're up against, he said, his name's Bernard Groffman, "Our hopes for the maps were that they would reflect Virginia's Democratic lean, but also the fact that Republicans had just swept all 3 of the Commonwealth statewide offices. These maps were supposed to be hard for the GOP to win a trifecta under." So they literally just admitted, like, they did not want us to take, we already had the governor, they didn't want us to take back the House. So we were against that. Those lines are staying, so those are still the lines that we have to work with and overcome. The left requests absentee ballots at a rate of more than 2 to 1 to conservatives as of right now. Okay, so to offset, and they returned at least 80%, so they know the number to go. They do 80%. So we need to get more absentee ballot requests than we had before, again, from those low propensity people that aren't going to vote otherwise. And I put this example in here. This is SD 31. This is up with me in Loudoun. This is about a week prior, so it wasn't the final number. So I think we're at 78% return at that time. But this is just to show. So the top one is GOP, bottom is Democrat. Can you guys see the chart? So, but looking at the requests, the total requests, you can see that they requested twice as many absentee ballots as Republicans. They have 8477 compared to 4033. Okay, both. But the return rate was the same. Ours ended up at 80, and theirs ended up at 80. Right here is 78 and 79, because we did final push for the Republicans to return theirs. Okay, but so even with both of us returning 80%, you can see how many more ballots they have than ours. They have twice as many ballots to return, right? So you need to generate more. So when you're returning 80%, you're more along the lines of, you guys see what I'm saying? So you have more ballots, obviously, banked already. And people were very sad last year that we lost, myself included. But hope for 2024 is to actually put it in perspective. Do not take your view of what happened on election night from the mainstream media, right? It's always, it's because you guys stink or, whatever. It's not. Despite the dire reporting that night, GOP candidates lost by fewer than 12,000 votes statewide. That is not a lot for the entire Commonwealth. So that's easy to overcome. 12,000. It's not, like 1 million or something. It's 12,000. It's very small. Karl Rove even wrote this: Virginia is a blue state that Mr. Biden carried 54 to 44% in 2020. Last week, Republicans won in 7 House districts that Biden carried in 2020 by up to 10 points, and 4 Senate districts he won by up to 9 points. Democrats did not flip a single Donald Trump district. So putting it in perspective, we flipped a bunch that had been won by Biden, and they did not flip any Republican strongholds. And so we were able to practice last year to get it in place for this year, because this year is critical. So there's hope, guys, right? It's not just because they say, oh, we lost this many. You actually have to look at the numbers, the field numbers, and see the votes that came in. Again, we need to change our entire mentality. We need to look at it more as election season rather than election day. Okay, and that is going to frame our outreach and how we interact with voters and things that we're asking them to do. And it starts the minute that early voting starts. Okay. Again, you're already doing voter registration prior to that point. Yeah, I miss the days when GOTV was 72 hours before. It was just very exciting. It was 3 days, and then you're like, whew, I'm so tired. Now, who's tired after 45 days?
Nobody.
Yeah, or I start doing my targeting in February, March-ish, and then we start hiring, and then we have our teams out in June through November. It's a lot, but it's important. So, and we'll see. I'm not sure what we're doing in Virginia this year. We'll see. If we have a team down here, I'll let Robert know in case anyone's interested in doing anything. We do pay well, so because it's important. So we still have to do a big get out the vote push on election day. This is not, remember I said both and, right? So we're not giving up election day, because you're still going to get your group of base voters that are not going to vote early no matter what you tell them. So you still have to be doing that. If we are close going in on election day by the numbers, we're going to win on election day, because we're going to still have the final people that want to come election day. Florida in 2020. Trump ended up winning by 3.5 points, even though we were down 100,000 votes leading up to election day, because so many people had shown up on election day. We win, or I should say GOP. GOP wins 70 to 80% of election day voting. That's a big number. So I don't see, even with us getting more people to vote, I don't see that number dropping a lot, because the people voting absentee, mail-in, are going to be newer voters who aren't going to vote otherwise. Okay, Arizona. You guys know who these guys are, right? We have an office in Arizona, so we were all in for Arizona. Carrie Lake and Blake Masters. Okay, so they lost. They should have won. I know they had a lot of issues with the machines in Maricopa County that day. We all watched in shock and awe that whole day. But that's another good argument for people to vote early. So if all those people had already voted, it wouldn't have mattered so much when the machines went down on election day, right? And okay, so before anyone asks me this question, because I seem to get this, people like to say, well, I still want to vote on election day because I want to surprise them with what my vote is. Okay, I still don't understand that, but no one knows how you voted. Okay, number one. Number two, Democrats expect you to vote on election day. If you want to surprise them, vote early, because that's not what they're expecting to do. So surprising them is doing the opposite of what they expect. We traditionally do election day. That's what they think you're going to do, because we never change. So you want to mix it up and really shock them, go early. If we don't adjust these tactics, we're going to continue to lose. Arizona, they had over 1 million Republican absentee ballots requested in 2022. Look at the return rate, though. 65%, not 80. They didn't hit 80. And we could have had all of the Carrie Lake as governor, and then down ballot we had Blake and all the other ones, and many of them lost because they were basically the GOP there was saying, okay, we have 1 million absentee ballots outstanding. We don't have to worry about these people. They're going to request them. They're going to return them. Now we just have to worry about the election day voters. Well, the election day voters did turn out, and then all the machines went down, so many of them had to go home. So if they had had an 80% return rate, we did the math on this, they would have won, and they would have won all the way down ballot. Remember, the importance for voting is to give everyone the opportunity to vote who's legally allowed to vote, and make sure that there is, basically your goal should be 100% participation with 0 fraud, should be our goal. It should always be our goal. And that's expanding early voting, embracing absentee, make sure it's secure, and we like the idea of making Election Day a national holiday because everyone's off and no one can say, oh, I couldn't vote, I need 45 days to vote because I had to work that day. You're just off, the polls can be open all day. And they are open all day. But the left does not want secure elections. They want ones that they can win, right? We've seen this over and over. So we need to, again, we have to win first to make the changes to secure our elections. I have another one on election integrity to talk about all of this stuff. And when we win by the current rules, we have to do what? We have to support voter ID with a picture on it, right? Right now you can go in with your utility bill that maybe you took out of your neighbor's mailbox, and they go to vote, and then they're like, you already voted. You can't vote because there's no picture. I actually went in with my driver's license face up, and he said, oh, no, I don't need that. And he flipped over the back, but then he scanned it, which I thought was more invasive. I thought, who said to scan my driver's license? Like, I'm showing you with my address, but he didn't want to see it. It was very strange. Also need to oppose any of these crazy liberal laws like 24-hour voting. Did you guys see this proposed in Texas? Yeah. 24-hour voting, they're literally, it's like, they also had the idea for drive-through voting. Like you go get a Coke because it's so hard. You got to drive through and just vote, and it's very secure. 24-hour was literally, they said, well, because some people do shift work, so they need to be able to vote at 3 a.m. 3 a.m. I think is usually when the boxes are found in the elementary schools in Loudoun County anyway. So they said, no, there's enough. You still have, because, Texas has the same as us. It's not one-day voting. They have early voting. There's no reason. These people are off at some point between the hours of 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. So they voted that down, but they're always trying, though. They're always trying to get something new and just frankly bizarre through that you think's a Babylon Bee article. Everyone know the Babylon Bee? I love Babylon Bee. And you read it and you think, oh, that's got to be a Bee article, and then you look and it says like CBS News. And you're like, oh, okay, it's not parody. Life is parody now. So you have to always be aware of the things that they're going to come up with. They're always going to try to do more and more with this. And fight for timely elections. This is a big one. Do you guys remember when you would know before you went to bed who won an election? And now it's like, who knows? Remember it started with the Bush-Gore thing and the hanging chads and that whole thing there. Delays in counting lead voters to doubt the legitimacy of the electoral process. Yes, over and over. Because you start wondering, why is this taking so long? Why are these shady precincts, the ones that are not coming in? I mean, we all know which are the precincts to watch, right? And they seem to be the ones that are delayed in sending in their numbers. So if nothing else, it concerns your citizens, and it's making less confidence in your government. So you need to start counting early and mail-in ballots 3 days before the election. Because, again, Florida. If Florida, which is the third largest state in the United States, can count 99% of its voters by 10 p.m. on election night, why does it take California up to a month to count its votes? Right? I mean, again, thinking it's not California's a big state, okay, but it's not one person counting them by hand, right? It's by district they're coming in and being counted. So there's no legal reason that should be. There might be other reasons, but not necessarily legal ones. Okay. And again, with the current temperature of our regime, we talk about having to secure consent. Okay, this is an American ideal. We need to secure the consent of American voters by all of our legal means that we have available to us. And that right now is what we have in the Constitution and Virginia law, whether we like it or not. But again, we need to follow it in order to overturn it, to get good election integrity laws back on the books like we had several years ago. So that is all I have on that, but it's very important. If you guys are on, those are all of our social media things. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
Hold on.
about,
Oh,
Sorry.
you gotta get on the mic
Oh, Mike?
for the broadcast.
Yes. You talked a lot about getting registrations up, but I don't, unless I missed it, you didn't talk about getting illegal voters off the rolls. And I happen to know, and now I know, there's a lot of dirt on the rolls. And anybody who can get a ballot has to be a legal resident of the United States.
Right.
So what do you say about two things? Cleaning the voter rolls and getting those down so that people who are not legal citizens can't vote, if you would, because they couldn't be registered. And the second thing, what about motor voter rolls, which hands out a registration to everybody, legal or illegal, who comes into the state? And they can register, and there is no check on that. Do you have comments about that?
I agree that we have people who should not be in our voter rolls. I think it was actually Jen Higgins was the one that put in the legislation to have the voter rolls clean more often, wasn't she? It was supposed to be like getting the deceased off every week as opposed to month, I think it was, because at first it failed because they didn't like that, obvious reasons, and then it passed. So I know there is some work to do that. I know our 10th District GOP was doing it, cleaning voter rolls up where we are. I don't know. I know that they're not good, and that's something that we have to try to figure out how to do, but I'm not the person to give you the good suggestion for how. But it is a problem.
They are very dirty. I can tell you that for a fact.
Yeah.
And I can tell you how I know.
Okay. Yeah, no, and I definitely believe you, and it's something that has to definitely be taken care of. Whether they're illegal or have already died, we've heard that before too. With someone's deceased mother and she's died 4 years ago and still getting absentee ballots because she was on the permanent list. These are all problems.
Well, the people aren't dead are the illegals, for example,
Yeah.
who are voting.
Yeah, that's a hot topic. Yes, I agree. I agree with you, John.
Well, Liz, you mentioned that these are the rules we have to play by until we win and can change them. So the big time we can change those are the state legislators that have to change. So if you look back at the Adams race, for example, where you got your 80%, does that mean our focus should be in those purple to blue districts? That the answer is we have to increase the voter registration and maintain the 80%? And because that race, the governor's race, is just really around the corner, and that's the race we have to win, are those House of Delegate and state Senate seats if we're going to change the system. I'm just curious if there'll be more focus on voter registration in what I'll call those purple to blue districts, because it's hard to win those kind of places if we don't increase the numbers that we're trying to get.
Yeah, and but some of the blue, so yes and no. So in some of the blue ones, there maybe just aren't. You want to be registered. So when you're doing voter registration, you want to be registering conservatives, right? Not just going door to door registering everywhere. And like some pockets of areas maybe don't really have a lot of them. So you can. So I know like when we did our targeting this year to try it, I did not pick any. Bill's was probably the most red that I picked because you could for us to just go in and do this in something that's already winnable. It looks good for statistics, but doesn't actually help the Commonwealth, and it's not getting more actual voters on there. So I didn't want to do that. So we did, two that were really more blue, and several that were the purple, kind of still fighting for it because once it really turns hard blue, it's hard to get it back. So what seems to work is getting people in their own communities who know their communities, even if you go across the bridge, it's pretty blue, but they're like Pocosin, they have like very Pocosin's very red. There are these red areas. People in those areas need to go and get the vote out. Some of these people are just quite elderly and just are immobile and can't leave. So they're conservative, but they haven't voted in a long time, and not just because they're not like the lazy 20-year-old or whatever in my last example, but they just simply can't get to the polls. And those people also need to be reached. We had many of those on phone calls because even some of them didn't answer the door. Like maybe they're just not mobile and they wouldn't come to the door. So we would go back and call them, and some of their ages or approximate ages would come up. 96. 101. They're still talking on the phone, but like, oh, I can't drive. I'm thinking, wow. I mean, good for you that you're still willing to vote. Those people, my daughter signed up many of them to be to get their absentee ballots because they I don't know. Maybe I think that they thought that wasn't a good enough reason to request it, but I think if you can't, get places, it is. So I would say doing your own communities and areas. You have all these different like software that you can figure out where the conservative pockets are and get them, because you don't want to be registering the wrong voters. So you want to be registering your own voters. And even in some of the rural red areas, some of them are not registered to vote either. Like we just assume it. Like if they're out on a 500-acre farm, maybe they're not really following politics, but they're conservative and they don't think about it and know that they can vote, early. So I would say do all of it, but I like to hit the purple as much as I can because I feel like we have the best chance for turning it. Yes, ma'am.
Liz, one of the big problems is manning. So we can barely get enough people to man the polls on election day. So to be able to get people out to do this work, the left has mega donors giving tons of money to pay people to go out and accomplish this work. What are we doing to try to overcome that? Also, second thing, 3 weeks ago on C-SPAN, there was a pastor who was addressing his congregation, and he was talking about having to get the power back. I mean, that was literally his stance. We have to get the power back. And it wasn't so much about just registering the people in his congregation. It was getting them to vote so we can get the power back. So this is another question that I have. What is legislation doing, or what is anybody doing to, there's the separation of church and state. We've seemed to lost that also. So I'm looking for answers for this too.
Okay, so separation of church and state is that the government can't get involved in the church, right? Not the other way, right? Just so we're clear. And I think you're talking about was it the leftist church? Was it yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'll just say it's good to be a leftist and you get away with a lot of things that you wouldn't get away with on our side. So, like I said, my pastor lets us do voter registration and all the nonpartisan things, and he'll talk about what we did. Even we did school board recall petitions at our church, because school board is quote nonpartisan. So these people were pushing all the LGBT stuff, all the sex books in kindergarten, all this, just everything that we've been fighting against. So we wanted to recall them, and he allowed us to do that. And he'll introduce. So I'm just trying to give you a picture of like how we can do things. He will vet candidates to make sure that they follow the Bible, that they're biblical, they are in line with biblical standards, basically. And he will introduce them. He doesn't endorse. We had Governor Youngkin at our church several times, and that was even the first time was when he was running, and he had Pete Snyder up there. He had Governor Youngkin. I don't remember if there was anyone else running, because those are the only two I remember. But they would visit, and he would introduce them, and he's running for governor, and normally doesn't let them really say anything, just kind of this is his background, but you're introducing them to the congregation. The congregation knows that your pastor is not going to introduce someone that is opposed to everything that he believes in and that he believes to be okay. So it's kind of a tacit, like, this guy's okay with me. Because even if there was someone running for the Republican Party who say they were pro-abortion and basically on the opposite side of biblical teaching, he would never introduce them. So you can kind of, deduct just based on that he's probably, not approving of him. But he doesn't just only introduce one person, because that would be an endorsement, right? So basically all the ones that, we have school board, we have several of our delegates and state senators that go to our church, because it's a bigger church, and he'll have them stand up, or he'll introduce, like, here's your slate of conservatives running. He doesn't say Republicans. These are your conservatives that are running. Don't forget to vote on election day. But he doesn't say, make sure you vote for him, him, and him. So, and that's legal. So again, don't break the law in how you're doing it. But standing up, saying, you need to vote Democrat, you have to be, a little bit careful with it. But I guess we're a little bit less concerned about being super careful. Like, we don't violate the law with it, but at the same time, we had told him, a lot of pastors are afraid, they'll say, we're going to lose our tax exempt status. Like, it's better than losing your head. So fight for what you can now, because right now, going to church and speaking from the pulpit is legal. Like I said, my background is Russian and Soviet things, like even things happening there today, or even in Ukraine today. There are like opposite of here. You have no real freedoms in any of those countries. And those churches there are still under the thumb of the government, what they can say. We don't want to get to that point. So I say, say the truth while you can, even when you can't, just do it. And the first, what was your first?
In reference to the funding that the
Oh, right, okay, not being able to get a lot of people. So the GOP, I know the GOP candidates have been paying their people to do it. We pay people to do doors, phones, etc. I know there are other nonprofits like mine that also do that. I thought the party paid people, maybe not as much, but I know our candidates were paying people. I know down here and up in Northern Virginia they pay them as well. So because it seems like every year we have to pay them more because someone else is paying more. So we pay $25 an hour for them to do doors. For us, I don't pay them. my company pays them, but because we need good people. But along with that is I don't take everyone that applies either necessarily. I've had people say, well, I could basically college kids saying, well, I'm not really that conservative, but basically, the Democrats are going to pay me this. What would you pay me? Zero, because if you're willing to be bought by the other side, I don't want you on our side. I don't trust you. I want someone that is in it for the right reasons, and then they're very pleased when that we're paying them to do that. So I don't hire every person that, and we had 65 people under me last year, and I vetted every single one, and that's interviewing them on the phone, and if I like them, having my field coordinator, interview them in person, checking their social media to make sure that they're not some kind of, sleeper agents trying to get in to try to, harm our candidates, because we need to protect our candidates also. So it's a process, but work with your party as much as possible, because they're the ones that are going to have the money, and the candidates get money from, so, yeah, yes. Oh, Robert, you had a question?
No.
I have to wrap up?
Yeah.
Bye.
Anything? Oh, no.
Okay, one more, and then I'll stick around if you have more questions after, okay? Okay.
What's the state of coordination right now with regard to the party and the people working at the precinct level? Like when I was in Texas, it was very well coordinated. I'm just wondering, the voter information, like for your precinct area, is that attainable by a precinct chairman through the local party?
I believe they should be able to get that. Yeah, your party's going to be the best way to get. Yeah, if you're not like in a nonprofit that's paying for all this stuff, your party will have it because they're getting it already. And precinct captain is how I started out as well, way back. And you can get, it's nice to have that because you have the voter information for a small area and you can really own that area. And then it helps your district chair too, because if all the precinct captains are doing it, it should push up basically. But thank you for doing that. And yes, I would go through your party. They should be able to get all the information through the registrar's office. Okay.
Liz, thank you so much. Like she's going to hang around.
I'll tell you.
We got a lot more to go. Thank you so much for coming down here.
Oh, and this I brought a sample of what we hang on the door that's not for candidates, basically secure your vote. We tried to use, Youngkin was using the secure your vote, and we're not partisan, but I thought if voters heard the same terminology over and over, it would just make it more, kind of more normal to them. And then an area for them to scan with their phone if they wanted to request their absentee ballot. So this is a really good way too. So, okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. And for those of you who are looking at life through rose-colored glasses, Liz has brought some
glasses cleaners and pens.
And pens. And Bill, do you have the Laura, and then John Moss, and then Monty? We've got most of them. I'm sorry.
So now we're going to have representatives of different candidates, and we're going to start with Laura Hughes because she needs to leave. Yay, Laura. Thank you, dear.
I am speaking on a few offices, so I'll keep each one brief. First, I'm running for chair of the Virginia Beach Republican Party. believe that we need a change. We need to make sure that our party is running by the body, not just the board. Anyone who is at our Yes, we would like to start helping Republicans win. We would like to stop splitting votes. We would like to actually show support. We would like to have a good endorsement system and help our candidates. Right now, we're not seeing that, and Virginia Beach is losing races. We have a Democrat majority on City Council. We have a Democrat majority on the school board. As far as second district races, we did take the second district this year, but Virginia Beach did not bring the numbers. We did not help. We did not do our part. And this past election, we lost the House, we lost the Senate, and 3 weeks before the election, our polls were less than 30% manned. Senator DeSteff brought in Elaine Fekete, and in 3 weeks, she got us to about 85% manned. We shouldn't be playing chicken like that. A few other races. I do have some pre-files here as well, so we have some other races going on, some that I'm involved in and some I'm going to speak for other candidates. And the pre-file has, oh, by the way, before I move on, the chair race is March 23rd at the Central Library from noon to 3 p.m. All that is required for you to vote is to be a registered voter who lives in Virginia Beach. You do not have to be a member of the party. We do have pre-file forms, and you can join the party if you'd like to. For any of these races I'm going to talk about, you're not required to join the party, although we'd like to grow our numbers and would love to have you. And the only process here is for you to fill out the form, pay your $50 fee, and you can join the party. With or without that, you can still go vote at the chair race on March 23rd. The next one we have is on April 27th. This is where we are going to be electing a chair for 2nd District Chairman, and then also the 2nd District has 3 other representatives. So David Karen is running against the incumbent for 2nd District Chairman, and I am running for a state central seat. We have one current incumbent on the Eastern Shore, we have one in Chesapeake, and we have one in Virginia Beach. I would like to replace our Virginia Beach incumbent. As I went to a women's club a couple of days ago, we had our current chair list some of the...
April 27th?
And that is on April 27th at Wave Church on Great Neck Road. You do have to pre-file to vote. I have those pre-file forms. We are required to turn them in, I believe, by March 22nd. It's either the 20th or the 22nd. I have it here in a stack, but I can give you that date. I'd like to have them earlier than that. If you can go online, I can email them to you, I can print them out and come to you and help you fill it out. I believe Karen Gilman has some also, and I have a clipboard here. If you give me your information, I can help take care of that. I can do everything except put your signature on it. There is no cost to vote in that election. Our current incumbents are taking credit for our statewide electeds, governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. And let's be clear, we can pat ourselves on the back all we want, but those elections were won because of angry parents, vigilant school board members, and McAuliffe's remark about how parents don't belong in education. We did flip our second congressional seat. However, we lost it in 2018. We lost it in 2020. And in 2022, we won, but Virginia Beach didn't bring the numbers. We lost the Senate, we lost the House, and they're claiming we flipped a lot of school boards to Republican control, but in Virginia Beach, we have a 6-5 Democrat majority, and one of those 6 is a member of our local Republican Party, and the 2nd Congressional District Chair and our local Virginia Beach GOP Chair seem to think that's okay. They continually defend her. We need to not be defending these bad decisions. When people run for offices, they don't need to run to be leaders. They need to run to be representatives. They need to represent you. And the final nail in the coffin that made me decide to run to be one of the representatives here at State Central is that there were some votes that happened that I didn't care for. I'm not a fan of ranked choice voting. We had Patty Lyman, who also I'd like for you to vote for as our state committee chairwoman, and that's part of this pre-file as well. I'm sorry, national committee woman. She introduced a resolution against ranked choice voting. We also had a board member in Virginia Beach who introduced a resolution for our city party. We were told by our chair we have to wait for guidance from the state. So they voted down the resolution. And I sent emails to the 2nd District Chair and the Virginia Beach Chair, who also votes at State Central. How did you do your due diligence and find out from your constituents what they wanted? One of them didn't even bother to respond, and the other one responded letting me know what he thought was best for me. That's not being a representative. We need representatives. So I would like your vote for chair on March 23rd. I and David Karen would both like your vote on April 27th. And I would love it if you would vote for Patty Lyman at the National Convention, which will be at the Hampton Conference Center. And that is March 31st and June 1st. Please reach out to me. I have pre-files.
Thank you, Lord.
The library is from noon to 3 p.m. Thank you.
And you have this for all of us to sign.
Good, thank you.
Laura, excuse me 1 second. Liz said that March 31st was Easter.
Yes, Easter. Are they doing it on Easter Sunday? You said March 31st and June 1st.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, May 31st and June 1st. I'm sorry, it's that weekend. I apologize.
Thank you.
Yes.
John, did you want to talk to the group?
Yes.
Briefly, because I don't want anybody to have to stay for lunch.
But if they do, you'll pay for it.
No, Robert said we'd all take pictures of the wall. No, just kidding. Laura just gave a really good talk, and those are people that I am supporting as well. We're going to change. It all starts at the bottom, not at the top. And nothing's more important. And who affects your life the most? Local government. And now that we have a district system, there's only one office that's accountable to all the people, and that is the office of mayor. The mayor is in the best position to bring transparency and to also remind their peers that they're accountable to you and that we need to keep our promises, like on stormwater. You don't take people's money at the polls and then change your mind unilaterally about the promises you made if they pass it. You also don't spend $4 million designing a park that you can't afford to build. You also don't appropriate $15 million to design schools that you can't afford to build either. And when you get to the end, you say, gosh, we can't afford those schools, but all you have left is vaporware meetings and paper products that you can't use, and $15 million of your money is gone with no product. And more importantly, we deserve tax relief. Now, one of the things you're going to hear, oh, I think we can reduce taxes by 2 cents. Remember, what they're really saying is they want to increase your tax rate by 7 cents because it's your bill that you pay that makes a difference. And if they're raising the tax rate, our revenue neutral rate is 92 cents. So if they're getting any more money than 92 cents on a tax rate, they're increasing your taxes. Because you can't call money you never had as a government a reduction. What it really is, it's a taking, because they're taking money they didn't have before they want from you. We need tax relief. The city's had, over the last 3 years, they've increased the rate 25%. Because each year the rate gets lowered to the revenue neutral rate. They increase it. They have to take a public vote. Diana knows. They take a public vote. They vote it up. The next year it comes down to 91, 92 cents. They vote it back up. So they're harvesting additional revenue every year, somewhere between $56 and $60 million every year on top of annual budget surpluses. In a time that you're seeing what? How many people have had their pay and keep up with prices? Have you gotten a 9 or 8% raise every year? How many of you got your escrow account lately? Got your notice from your mortgage company? Did it go down? And who goes into the grocery store and says, oh, groceries only went up 9%? I want to shop there, so if you know where that is, let me know. Well, so we're really hurting. Families and businesses are hurting. But who's been giving themselves a pay raise by confiscation? The local city council. It's affecting your budget. The governor gave you tax rebate. He kept some, but he gave a lot back.
They've kept everything that they've over appropriated for and then raised more revenue. They are pricing us out of our own city. And for what? Special interest spending. So I am running on a transparency and fiscal conservatism, and remembering that council member or mayor is a fancy word for employee. We work for you, and we need to be as lean as the families' budgets that we serve, and we are not. And I appreciate your support, and if you want to sign up for one of the council districts, I have them all put out there so you can sign up to work the polls, or if you want to go door to door, you can put those things in. And Liz was right. You got to go after the votes, because this is going to be a lot of money out in this area, and the special interests want business as usual, and we can't afford it either on values or priorities, and our families are counting on us to protect our wealth so we might have something to pass on. So I appreciate your support.
Mr. Boss, I was reading this morning on Nextdoor, there were some comments about the cost of everything, the budgets and all that, and they were mentioning some other candidates or some other council members. But going back 43 years, I only know of 2 council members ever that prepared alternative budgets. And way back when, I was part of that process in Bill DeSteff's kitchen with you, Bill, and myself.
Broadway Point,
yeah, and come up with these alternate budget. And you and he did it while he was here, and then you've done it every single year. There's not been another, the mayor, no one on city council has prepared a tax-neutral budget except John Moss. I just want to let that be known for the record.
Well, let me just do some quick macro math. 7 cents is roughly $56 million. The city of Virginia Beach budgets every position as if it's filled all the time. When historically over decades, they've always had a 5% vacancy rate. There's roughly $23 to $25 million you can cut that you don't need to tax just by adopting and funding your historical onboard count, not new. The school board likely also under-executes their payroll about $20 million a year consistently. So you're already at $45 million. You can take the $4 million you appropriated for the park we can't build that they haven't obligated yet. Wow, you're at $49 million. So it doesn't take you long to get the $56 million just doing very simple things that don't change anything. Plus you have revenue growth. So when people tell you that they can't do it, they need to get people who manage their budgets on the median salary income in Virginia Beach of $75,000. This is an expensive town to live in, and they can do the job for them. Just let them do it, and then just vote for it. But it is not breaking out a sweat to cut 3.5% of growth out of a $2.6 billion budget. If you can't manage that, you got the wrong job.
Make the rate 88.
Thank you, John. Was there an announcement from the ninja?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Monty.
I'm sorry. Come right ahead.
Well, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate your time to introduce myself. Nancy, thanks for the invitation to be here. Sincerely, Karen. Sorry, and appreciate the opportunity to be here and the invite and the award. Sincerely appreciate that. My name is Monty Ashleman. I am a resident and a registered voter in the city of Virginia Beach. I'm a recently retired Navy captain after over 32 years of active duty service in our United States Navy. This November in the election, I'll be running for the at-large seat on the Virginia Beach School Board, currently held by Vicki Manning. And just to be clear, Vicki Manning is not running for a re-election or to stay there on the school board. I've been a resident of Virginia Beach since the early 1990s, and me and my family are deeply rooted in this wonderful community. I married my high school sweetheart. We're both from eastern Colorado, really more the Kansas, Nebraska part of Colorado, vice the Rocky Mountains. And I've got 3 lovely daughters that, even with 12 moves in the military, all went through Thalia Elementary and ended up graduating from Princess Anne High School. And I certainly look forward to grandchildren one day going through our public schools. So, why Monty Ashleman for school board? I think that I will bring strong representation, and then amongst the school board, I think I'll bring strong leadership to ensure effective, responsible, and respectful collaboration amongst the school board. I will always make sure and promote academic excellence, support our teachers and staff, and work to effectively manage those precious taxpayer resources that I know we had to effectively manage in the Department of Defense as well. And then the bottom line is this: our students are first. Students are always first for the school board, right? And I want to make sure that the Virginia Beach Public Schools are a place that not only students, who are going to be our future leaders in the community, future leaders of this nation, make sure that their education and development is first, and that their parents, as well as the school faculty, are proud to be part of the Virginia Beach Public Schools. Because there are many wonderful traits of this wonderful community that led to me and my spouse deciding to retire here versus going back to where our families are in Colorado. And we want the Virginia Beach Public Schools to be one of those wonderful traits of this area. Quickly about my background, I got into the Navy and the military service, and by graduating from the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland in 1990. From there, went into naval aviation, specifically aircraft carrier aviation and F-14 Tomcats and F-18 Super Hornets on numerous aircraft carriers and numerous deployments around the world. And my leadership background is as a Top Gun instructor, as well as a commanding officer of a strike fighter squadron, as well as a base commander of a installation out on the West Coast. So sincerely appreciate your time, and if your most generous support would allow, would appreciate your vote in this November election. I do also want to take a quick opportunity to thank you what you all did to start the breakfast in this meeting this morning by honoring our 5 brothers. And certainly this isn't something that has to be said here, but all Americans need to realize that while we're able to do things like this, holidays, weekends, and have fun when we're back here, there's a lot of America's brightest out there, men and women, that are doing dangerous things in training and real-world operations every day and night. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Monty, just a quick note. With the test scores being on the decline, even here in Virginia Beach, which are really dramatic, I know that the Naval Academy has always had high standards for getting in, even though you have to get the congressman or senator to sponsor you. I hope that's on the forefront of bringing these scores up and not just passing the kids through. And with that being said, I wish the same thing would apply for Navy beating Army, but it just doesn't happen.
Well, I appreciate that, and I agree with you on your latter comment, and completely agree. With the world's a tough place to be, whether it's competitively, things that we're doing, serving in the local communities, and that's part of that promoting academic excellence that I think we need to do. As we brought back, valedictorians, salutatorians, rewarding positive behavior as well as positive performance academically, and not setting a false narrative for our students so that when they graduate from high school and get out in the real world and realize that things aren't going to be handed to them. So
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Hi. What district and who else is running in that district? Thank you.
Okay, so I'll be running for the at-large seat. The one at-large seat in Virginia Beach, currently held by Vicki Manning, is who I'll be running for, not the individual district.
Tell us your name one more time.
Yeah, my name is Monty Ashleman, and again, this November, the at-large seat in the Virginia Beach School Board, and appreciate your support, your time, and all that you do for this great city as well as this great nation. Thank you.
Did you want to talk for a candidate?
I can't speak for him, but I do thank you for the opportunity. I still have a sign-up sheet for cash. I have one more page that said I deliver. So if anybody hasn't signed up for Cash Green, he's running conservative because it's a city race, and usually we call it Republican if it's bigger. That's it.
What race is he running?
He's running for council in Virginia Beach in District 7. And the current Democrat that's holding the seat is still moving forward to run for mayor, right?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
He has announced here that he is not seeking the election.
Robert, you want to summarize?
You have to be in the 7th district to sign yours.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
that's good.
Yes, you have to be in the 7th to sign this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're about to hear about the games in just a minute. The skill games, yes, that are now turned on, I hope. I think she's going to talk about that. Diana, did you want to say something?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to let you know that the two bills that were going in the General Assembly to add state employees to collective bargaining and to take away your local option to say no to it, they both were left in finance and appropriations. So they didn't make it over crossover. So our city council is getting an update on collective bargaining on Tuesday during the informal session. So anybody doesn't know what collective bargaining is, that is giving unions the ability to negotiate contracts that bind all 11 of your city council to those contracts. Okay? And I just recently spoke at Aragona, and two union representatives found out that I was going to be there, so they asked for equal time. And they said it was not about the money, it was about solving problems. The teachers union wanted to solve problems by getting more teachers. That's the problem, by getting more teachers. And apparently won't get teachers unless we have collective bargaining. And the firefighter had some problems with his uniform and carcinogens or something like that in cleaning it. And I remember I was at one of the collective bargaining meetings, and the city manager was like, well, if you have any problems or anything like that, I'd be glad to meet with you. And his response was, that's lip service. So any problems they have can be solved without collective bargaining. They had a problem with pay compression, and city council did vote for the most expensive program called the STEP program to address that problem. And they've gotten other benefits as well. So they can do it without collective bargaining, which is only going to run up the cost of government, which he said was not going to run up the cost of government because it was only going to be one-time expenses. It's not going to be one-time expenses. You have to have negotiators, you have to have contract lawyers, you have to have labor relations personnel, and you have to have more HR personnel and a pay module for every different contract negotiating unit. Yes, Dick?
Yes. What do you have to say about the effort? What do you have to say about the effort that I understand is going on with trying to reinstate Virginia into ERIC?
Oh yeah, that passed as well.
It did?
Yes.
That's insane.
Yes. Well, it went over. It crossed over.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So it has to be the same in both houses, and passed in both houses the same, and then it goes to the governor. So we just had crossover.
Well, where are you on it?
Huh?
What do you think about it?
Oh no. There was many problems with Eric.
Yeah.
I mean, they found, personal problems and stuff like that with tampering and things. So, no, it's not a good idea.
What is it again?
Eric, that's the election something whatever with other states and stuff like that. He could probably, I don't remember what the acronym stands for. Some sort of compact that you have with other states.
ERIC was about, theoretically, was to manage the voter rolls on a national basis.
Right. So our voter rolls suck, so how well were they working? So anyway, I have handouts there on collective bargaining. If you haven't gotten one, please take one. A lot of people don't know what collective bargaining is. So, if you have any questions about it, I mean, I'm from New York. I can tell you it's not a good thing. Yes, Tom, you had a question?
No, I wanted to make an announcement.
Okay, and also our next meeting is March 14th, the second Thursday of the month, at 7 p.m. at the Masonic Lodge, 2849 Princess Anne Road, and we're going to have two more of the Senate candidates running for the primary, Hung Kao and Eddie Garcia.
Which Thursday is that?
The second Thursday in the month, March 14th, 7 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, Laura, our esteemed hostess, is about to give us an update on where the skill games are.
Hello. Hi. Could you stand up, please?
Sorry.
So the skill games have been turned off since November. This past week, the House and the Senate has passed the moving them forward. So within the next month, they're going to agree on wording and different terms. They want to tax them. They only want to allow 5 per business. They're having the ABC board control them so they can go in and look, because there's a lot of other places that have illegal gaming machines, and this is the reason that they're regulating and taxing our machines, which is okay with us as long as we have the skill games, because they really help small businesses. The casinos, the Portsmouth Casino is who wanted to put a stop on the machines. They're spending $50,000 a month on propaganda ads, so that they get them shut down. But that's not going to work. So they've been passed. Hopefully they'll be turned back on in July 1st when the new laws come out. They've agreed to. So everything's been passed, so they'll be turned on. We don't know quite when yet, but they're going to make it into a law, so this won't happen again. Hopefully they'll just keep them, they'll regulate them, they'll tax them, and small businesses can make their money back.
Thank you,
Yes.
Laura. Are there any bills we should keep an eye on, or for further updates? I have some friends that own bars or different things.
Yeah, so it's House Bill 590 and Senate Bill 212.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. All right, is there anything else that needs to be said? Oh, yes, please.
You want to come up, or do you want to?
No. Our 912 group will be meeting next Monday night, the 26th, and we will be studying public policy from a constitutional viewpoint. Starts 6:30 at Great Neck. What is it? Why not Italia? That's it. Why not Italia? So next Monday night, 6:30.
Hi, as most of you know, I'm Ron Axel. I wanted to let you know that Concerned Veterans for America is starting back up here in the area. I'm the local representative to work with that. We work with trying to keep policies and laws that are friendly to veterans and work to get new ones in that need to come through. About 10 years ago, we worked on the Mission Act, which is what allows veterans to get health care outside of the VA system with certain requirements, of course. We've been working on that since, and to try to improve it. There's been some issues, minor issues with it. We've been working to tweak it. I just started this week, so I don't really know exactly what policies we're working on right now. I will be getting that hopefully in the next week or two. I just went through a training about the organization. So a lot of you have my number, and as soon as I get business cards, I'll have them and I can give them to you. And as we get events coming up, I'll let everybody know, and you can just pass it on. And that's it. Thanks.
So at this point, we should entertain a motion to adjourn.
No, adjourn.
And a second?
No, I got it.
No. I'm sorry, you're cut off.
You can't. It's been adjourned.
All right. Here you are.
Thank you. I just want to make announcements on our next upcoming speaker on March the 2nd, Steve Gorham. He is the nationally known and renowned climatologist. Oh, wait, Bud finishes. I'll wait till Bud finishes. Okay. Bud. Steve Gorham will be here to speak. We also have him scheduled to be on the Virginia VB Liberty podcast. Plus, in April rather, we have Dr. Cook, the former president of ODU. He's going to be on the podcast with John Moss, talking about, and it's so vast, the conversation, we're going to do it 2 Wednesdays in a row. So you'll be getting all those notices. Right now, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn, because I want to. We're going to do that, but I don't want to for broadcast. Okay. Is there a motion on the floor to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Okay. Now we have a very important announcement.